morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here is your weather forecast Australia-wide for March 25th, 2025. A lot to get through today. We've got that heavy rainfall and storm still occurring over in Queensland. You can see central Queensland getting an absolute drenching this morning, and the rainfall has been ongoing over the last 48 hours. We've had some pretty significant rainfall accumulations as a result of this rainfall here. Last night, a very nice line of thunderstorms developed between Longreach up through Heatwave and then across towards Townsville and the Cardwell area there. Still some heavy showers streaming into the Cardwell Gap area this morning, and you can see those thunderstorms did provide a little bit of rainfall again for the Townsville area as well, but the main story was out in the north central areas of Queensland between Longreach up to Heatwave, where over 150 millimetres has fallen from these thunderstorms as a result. We've had widespread falls between 25 to 75 millimetres, with some of the heaviest falls so far overnight around the Charleville area. They're expected to cop it later on tonight, and you can see that low pressure system spinning up north of Bedore, now north of Birdsville, and just towards the south of Mount Isa, heading towards the southeast very slowly this morning, but you can see it's still dragging in a lot of moisture from the Gulf of Carpentaria, and a lot of moisture also being dragged in from the Coral Sea side of things now, with a bit of a moisture channel now beginning to develop between Townsville down towards Mackay. Plenty more showers and thunderstorms still expected throughout the remainder of today and into tomorrow as well, and the rain is just beginning to ramp up now. We're expecting the rainfall to be at its heaviest around the Charleville, the Windora, the Yarraka and the Addervale areas later on this afternoon. You can see the low pressure system still situated inland, like I said, just to the north of Bedore at this time here, but slowly moving towards the southeast, and it is a strong and very well put together low pressure system, and that's why so much moisture and so much rainfall is being dragged in around this low pressure system here in central North Queensland. Now, we've got plenty of rainfall still expected to materialise along the eastern side of this, but the southeastern side is where the heaviest rainfall is going to be. So like I said, in this general area here, south of Longreach and Jericho, around Windora, Yarraka, Charleville, Addervale, Augathella and Tambo is where we're expecting the heaviest rainfall to be, and it will be heavy down towards Quilpie as well, and then further south down towards Cunnamulla on the New South Wales-Queensland border. We've still got moderate heavy falls expected down there. Plenty more showers and thunderstorms expected tonight, plenty of heavy showers and thunderstorms also expected into tomorrow morning, but as this low pressure system then begins to contract further towards the south side of Queensland, we're expecting plenty of moderate heavy rainfall to just develop on the southeastern side of this system, as I've been saying for the last couple of minutes, to just spin itself up and sit over in this general area of Queensland that I'm circling right now. I'm not 100% sure of the name of this location here, or what I would go about calling this, apart from kind of south central Queensland at this time here, but around Augathella, Charleville and Addervale is where the heaviest falls are expected throughout the early hours of tomorrow into tomorrow evening, and also in towards Thursday as well. We're still expecting lingering showers and thunderstorms to keep providing some plenty of heavy rainfall here through Thursday morning and into Thursday afternoon, and another burst of thunderstorms Thursday evening and into Friday morning will just continue to add some of the heavy rainfall totals, or tip them up even further. Plenty more heavy rainfall expected through Friday and then in towards early Saturday morning, when this rainfall then begins to clear out of central Queensland and head over towards the southeast and the east coast of Queensland. You can see plenty of rainfall expected across the Sunshine Coast through Saturday and into early Sunday morning. Showers and thunderstorms lingering through Sunday morning along the South Queensland coastline north of the Sunshine Coast up through Bundaberg, Agnes Water, Rockhampton and Ogmore. Showers and thunderstorms lingering there through Sunday, but then finally clearing off through Monday and into Tuesday. So plenty of rainfall still to come. I would say, in terms of a round number, probably for the most part of the locations here, about 30% done with the rainfall. So you've had about 30% of the total rainfall that you are going to pick up, unless you live in the western parts of Queensland, and then the rainfall is more or less done for those locations now. But you can see rainfall accumulation still expected to be very significant throughout the remainder of this week. So this is 5-day rainfall accumulations here starting from now, heading out over the next 5 days, and you can see really significant rainfall accumulations expected to be streaming down in a line heading from the northwest down through the southeast, entering through the Gulf of Carpentaria here around Burketown and Corumba. Heavy rainfall is expected up there, with a further 250 millimetres possible in these locations up here. Rainfall will head further inland through the Norman River and the Leichhardt River catchment area through here, and then any location towards the east of Cloncurry and Julio Creek expecting some pretty significant rainfall accumulations as well, up between that 150 out to about 250 millimetre mark. Depending on what showers and thunderstorms develop, Winton looks to be the most northerly location where we're going to be seeing some really significant rainfall accumulations over the next 5 days. Winton itself expecting up around that 200 millimetre mark. Muttaburra and Longreach also expecting about 200 millimetres apiece, and then the rainfall starts to get really heavy as we head further south of Longreach and Jericho. Tambo expecting about 250 millimetres, Augathella up to 250 millimetres, and Charleville kind of on the highest end of the forecast right now, with up to 300 millimetres of rainfall forecast for the Charleville area. Quilpie, Addervale, Eromanga all expecting about 150 to about 250 millimetres of rainfall. Anywhere between 150 out to about 200 millimetres can also be expected right down to the Queensland-New South Wales border. Lightning Ridge could pick up 100 millimetres of rainfall, and spot accumulations up to 100 millimetres, but widespread accumulations between 25 and 75 millimetres can be expected across the northern third of New South Wales as well, and that includes the entire northern third, running from Broken Hill across to Taree and pretty much any location further north of that. Almost all of this rainfall here, apart from a couple of showers expected in the northeast of New South Wales throughout tonight into tomorrow, is going to be associated with this low pressure system that's dragging all of that moisture in from the Gulf of Carpentaria. And also, it's important to note that some good moisture is also expected to be dragged in from the Coral Sea, and that's why we've got widespread falls between 50 and 150 millimetres on the North Queensland coastline, with isolated totals over the next 5 days up to 250 millimetres for locations between Townsville down to Mackay. Rainfall accumulations will also be quite large closer to the Queensland coastline as well, with heavy showers and storms expected on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday for Claremont, Emerald and Rolleston, with peak accumulations in those locations up to 300 millimetres as well. But for the most part, rainfall accumulations in this general area will be up around that 150 to 200 millimetre mark over the next 5 days. Now, the mountainous areas in this central part of Queensland here, I still didn't get an answer for it, but it is the Carnarvon National Park. I'm not sure if this is just what the mountains are referred to towards the southwest of Rolleston, or if they've got their own name here, but this blob of mountains and hills in this central part of Queensland are expected to pick up the significant amount of rainfall here. Up to around 400 millimetres can be expected, just because of their elevated nature here. The rainfall's going to have to work to get over it, and these clouds will just drop their loads over this mountainous area here. Plenty of rivers feed out of these mountainous areas as well. I'm not exactly sure of the specifics in terms of the names here, but a lot of them drain out into the Diamantina River in towards central Queensland and across towards western Queensland. So the rivers up here are going to get another feeding frenzy throughout this weekend as the rainfall gets itself closer to this area by around Thursday and Friday. But again, some really significant falls possible out there. Heavy rainfall also expected along the south Sunshine Coast, right extending up towards Bundaberg and into the northern parts of the Sunshine Coast, with anywhere between 150 out to about 250 millimetres of rainfall possible. Into the Brisbane area, widespread falls between 75 and about 100 millimetres can be expected over the next 5 days. Heavier falls expected through Sunday as well. You can see just adding to those rainfall accumulations a little bit. Brisbane itself probably going to be on the lower side of that at around 75 millimetres, but the further north you get, the higher the chances are of getting about 100 millimetres. The bulk of the rainfall will fall on Saturday, with a few more showers expected on Sunday to the Brisbane metro area. The Gold Coast can expect anywhere between 50 to about 100 millimetres of rainfall there. Now, I do apologise for my butchering of geography names. I've never really covered a Queensland weather event in this part of Queensland here, not for the last 6 months at least, so my geography definitely does need a little bit of work through here. But if you've got any suggestions or feedback about town locations or what you want me to learn, then leave it in the comment section down below, and I'd be more than happy to check that out to make a better weather forecast for everybody. But yeah, plenty of rainfall still on the cards, plenty of showers and thunderstorms still on the cards as well. The type of showers and thunderstorms is what people are getting a little bit confused about, because a lot of people are just expecting heavy, solid periods of rainfall through here, and that's not necessarily what we're expecting here. The nature of this weather event is just heavy showers and bands of rainfall that are going to be moving through, like last night where we got this very solid band of rainfall and severe thunderstorms developing between Longreach up through Muddabara, Huendon, and then across towards Townsville and Cardwell. These thunderstorms here were quite intense, and that's kind of the rainfall that we are expecting through here. Big time thunderstorms with very heavy rainfall embedded within them. And you can see trailing these thunderstorms through here, rain bands heading around the Mount Isa and in the Cloncurry area. This is the type of rainfall that we're expecting, not just solid periods of rainfall moving through this part of Queensland. It is for the most part going to be on and off. So you'll get breaks in the rainfall which could last for up to 24 hours, and you'll get periods of rainfall that last for up to around 6 to 12 hours as well. So whilst the rainfall isn't expected to be heavy, it's going to be long lasting, and it's going to be providing plenty of, I guess, much needed moisture, but they certainly don't need much more moisture, that's for sure, in this part of Queensland here, and the rainfall certainly is starting to become problematic. We do have plenty of flood watches and warnings in place, with major flooding now outside of Windora down towards Quilpie, plenty of flooding also up towards the moderate levels out towards Bedora as well, and up towards Billia as well. And moderate flooding is expected to turn into major flooding through some of the major rivers in this area that flow down towards Birdsville and then into the Ayr catchment area. In a few weeks, we're expecting Lake Ayr to have a very significant contribution to water levels, which will be great to see, but it certainly looks like a lot more rainfall is still to come. So again, the flooding threat is not over yet. Just the magnitude of this low pressure system is kind of bending imagination at this time. So the low pressure system here is located halfway between Birdsville and Mount Isa on this map here, but the convective swathe, so its area of influence, the amount of area that these clouds clouds are covering is pretty much the entirety of Queensland. I mean, minus that tiny pocket in the southwestern corner of Queensland, pretty much the entirety of Queensland is being impacted some way or another by this low pressure system, whether it's light cloud or moderate rainfall. And you can see the cloud extending halfway down through New South Wales as well, through the Northern Territory, and even across in towards Western Australia as well. Moisture being sucked in over in the West Australian waters over there. So this low pressure system is really impacting a lot of people, and it's expected to continue impacting a lot of people as the time ticks onwards. Up into far north Queensland as well, significant rainfall is ongoing at the Halifax area as well. Around the Ingham area, we've got a bit of a moisture flow flowing in right now. There's had some heavy fall sitting over these locations for the last hour. Rainfall is expected to continue throughout the remainder of this morning as well. Heavy showers still streaming through over Hinchbrook Island and then in towards this kind of bend area of Queensland between Townsville up around the Cardwell area. The Cardwell Gap Alert has picked up 117 millimetres of rainfall since 9 a.m, which is now continuing to rise as well, and I'm expecting rainfall accumulations there to top out at about 160 to 170 millimetres in the 24-hour period. Some sharp rises to river levels can be expected over the next couple of hours as well, and whilst they haven't been registered yet in some of the river level observations, I imagine that will happen in the next couple of hours. So again, take extra care on the roads if you live in this part of Queensland here. This has been pretty much the hotspot for rainfall over the last 3 months, and we've had to talk about this location in pretty much every single forecast update over the last 3 months in some way or another, just with rainfall. So this part of Queensland just cannot catch a break here at the Cardwell Gap area. Plenty more rainfall still to come as well for North Queensland. We've got showers and thunderstorms expected throughout the remainder of today, and you can see they are going to be ongoing throughout this morning and into this afternoon. We could be seeing some heavy bands of rainfall stream into the Townsville down towards the Mackay area, especially around the Proserpine area through tomorrow night into Thursday morning. Showers and thunderstorms widespread through Thursday and into Friday as well, but they'll finally begin to ease off by the looks of things around the coastline through Saturday and into Sunday. It is looking to be a lot calmer throughout this weekend. Still a couple of showers and storms expected here and there, and then showers and thunderstorms returning from a southeasterly trajectory by the looks of things throughout early next week into the first week of April. And we could be seeing some heavy showers here into the first week of April, and some isolated periods of heavy rainfall throughout the second week of April is also possible as well. But it looks like for the most part the rainfall is going to return into its normal patterns here from the southeast come around Sunday or Monday, and there'll be a couple of days of heavy rainfall before the rainfall does begin to ease off of far north Queensland. And just having a look at the rainfall forecast for far north Queensland, you can see over the next 14 days, whilst there are some significant rainfall observations on the forecast here, we could be seeing up to around 400 or 500 millimetres. Considering that it is spread over the next 14 days, that rainfall is not going to be problematic. And whilst yes, there will be days where the rainfall is heavier than other days and the risk of flooding is still there for far north Queensland and some heavy falls can be expected, I'm not seeing any standout periods where we're looking at days upon days upon days of heavy to intense rainfall across far north Queensland, which is very good news. It looks like they are going to have a little bit of reprieve now, and whether we get another rainfall event in towards late April, it's not looking overly unlikely at this point. We could be seeing some plenty more rainfall to come. We've still got a month and a half of wet season activity to go up in far north Queensland before the rainfall does begin to die off, and that's certainly time for another Madden Julian oscillation cycle, but we will have to wait and see. It certainly looks like the rainfall is now on its back end and on its way out for far north Queensland, and I imagine that forecast makes a lot of people very happy. That's not to say that no more rainfall is on the forecast, though. You can see, like I'm showing you here on the forecast models, yes, there are some discrepancies, but plenty more rainfall still to come across far north Queensland, but it certainly is now beginning to look like it may be on its way out, which is very good news indeed. The axis is actually calling for something very interesting on the forecast model, might I add as well. Just some interesting stuff here, and the chances of some heavier falls into the north central parts of New South Wales. I do think that that is a bit of a load of boogies, but later on into the forecast period, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some heavier falls along the northeastern corner of New South Wales and then up into the Sunshine Coast of Queensland, as I have already talked about so far in this forecast update. Anyways, let's leave Queensland behind. In terms of other interesting nuggets of weather on the forecast, it's not an awful lot to talk about apart from the southwest of Western Australia that is cooking right now. But we're going to head over into the Pilbara offshore area, just offshore from the Pilbara coastline, where we do have tropical low 27U beginning to spin itself up quite nicely at this point here. And I think it's closer to tropical cyclone status than what the Bureau of Meteorology might be suggesting at this time. It did get officially upgraded last night to tropical low 27U, and it got a forecast track map as well, which isn't suggesting this becoming a tropical cyclone for a good length of time actually, until I believe it was Wednesday they're suggesting this to become a tropical cyclone, the Bureau of Meteorology, and I think that might be a little bit late on, especially considering the start to life that it has had so far. It really doesn't look like we're going to get a satellite picture of this tropical cyclone's development, and unfortunately no wind observations in its general vicinity either, which is a little bit tragic. It's certainly battling with a little bit of wind shear right now, but you can see the low pressure center really coming together right now from this tropical cyclone over the last couple of hours. It's really starting to materialize quite nicely, and some great convection now beginning to fire as well around this system. So it actually looks like it is a hot shot of becoming a tropical cyclone pretty shortly, and you can see it's now really beginning to feed off the energy from tropical low 25 here, which is this convective blob up here towards the northwest of the system, and we are expecting a bit of a Fujiwara interaction over the next couple of hours, through the next couple of days to take place. Now this system here does have an interesting forecast ahead of it. It does have some pretty good conditions, especially through Wednesday and into Thursday, and it's not expected to be a large system either, so we could be seeing this system pick up a little bit of steam pretty quickly throughout the later parts of this week. I'm not ruling out a category 2 or 3 strength severe tropical cyclone here. It certainly could get up into some of those higher intensity brackets, especially if it does remain small and the wind shear does keep its distance from this tropical cyclone, which certainly looks likely at this time. However, again, no threat to the West Australian coastline, so there's really no point in covering this system too much in detail. It's just an interesting nugget well offshore from the WA coastline, which is good news because we were once expecting this to skim the West Australian coastline. That's no longer expected to be a possibility at this time. You can also see plenty of tropical moisture beginning to develop here offshore from the Kimberley coastline, and we have had rumbles of activity on the forecast models over the last couple of days as well. And now that the Bureau of Meteorology is on board, I do expect there to be a low pressure spin up offshore from the Kimberley coastline sometime through Wednesday and into Thursday, and a very weak tropical low or even a very weak brief tropical cyclone could develop and head into the Kimberley coastline later on this week through Thursday and into Friday. Very short notice of these systems up here, but just considering its proximity to the Kimberley coastline and the fact that we do have a little bit of congruency between the major forecast models at this time, with all major forecast models on board with at least something beginning to develop here. You can see the GFS actually calling for a bit of a strong system by the looks of things, the icon not really calling for anything apart from that tropical low. So with 3 major forecast models calling for a weak tropical low or slash tropical cyclone to head into the Kimberley coastline, which will bring plenty of rainfall and probably a couple of days of 150 millimeters consecutively for the Kimberley region and up to about 150 millimeters also for the northwestern corner of the Northern Territory, including Darwin. Some great rainfall could be on the forecast as a result of this developing low pressure system slash tropical cyclone. It isn't expected to be problematic in terms of wind speeds, and very little damage, if any, can be expected from this system here, which is why we're not going to go into great detail on it either. The GFS is certainly a forecast solution that I should probably make mention of, even though it is kind of a load of boogies at this point here and there is no forecast model support at this time. The GFS is calling for a bit of a stronger low pressure system to develop along that trough line throughout tomorrow and in towards Thursday, and if that does develop here, it will land itself in a very favourable climate by the looks of things, and then the GFS, and notably here, is calling for some pretty rapid intensification just offshore from Broome. It is stalling, so I think that this forecast here is not going to eventuate as what the GFS is saying here, but just food for thought. We might be seeing something head into the West Australian coastline later on this week as a bit of a stronger system than what we are initially expecting. Again, it's still a lot of discrepancies in the forecast here, and this is the first time that we've actually really made mention of it, and the first time that I've properly noticed this on the forecast modelling and the satellite imagery as well. So we'll refer back to this tomorrow, and I'll have some definitive answers on what we can expect. But in terms of what you should be expecting right now, in terms of the expectations between Broome up through the Kimberley region and then across into the north and western corner of the Northern Territory through Darwin and up towards Melville Island, expect rainfall accumulations per day to be around that 75 to 150 millimeter mark right out towards Saturday, which could lead to 4-day rainfall accumulations up to 400 millimeters in some of these locations. So some isolated heavy falls can be expected as a result of this developing tropical low slash tropical cyclone. Either way, it doesn't matter if this gets to category 1 status or not. The wind speeds are not expected to be a problem up here. Very little damage can be expected. It's just the rainfall that is worth mentioning. Anyways, down to the southwest corner of Western Australia, where Perth nearly got its record warmest March day on record. The previous record 42.7. We got to 41 degrees in Perth yesterday. It was very warm and it certainly felt the part. My personal weather station eclipsed 43 degrees, which would, officially speaking, make it the warmest March day on record for Perth, but that's not the case considering it's not an official weather station. It's probably picking up the bricks in my backyard. But anyways, the temperatures were very warm indeed, and it's all being powered by that west coast trough from that developing tropical cyclone there, and it is expected to be warm once again today. Mid-30s expected for Perth, then high 30s again expected on Wednesday and Thursday, mid-30s for Friday, and then by the looks of things it is going to be mid to high 30s for this coming weekend as well, before those temperatures finally cool off by the looks of things later on Sunday and in towards Monday. Might get a little bit of reprieve to the heat, but it is going to be a hot end to March, that's for sure, and a hot start to April, at least for the Pilbara and the Gascoyne regions. It looks like those temperatures might finally cool down with an approaching cold front through Friday and in towards Saturday, the first weekend of April, and now towards the second week of April. In terms of other interesting stuff though, nothing else to talk about, so I'm going to leave this weather forecast here. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, then please do consider leaving a like and also subscribe to the channel for future updates as well. If this rainfall does get really serious, there'll be a further update on it later on today. I just don't think I'm going to find the time for it, unfortunately. But again, thank you to all of the channel sponsors there for their support, and again, I do apologise profusely for butchering the Queensland geography earlier on in this forecast update. That's all from me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.